with Tracy in LA. Hi everyone, welcome back to my podcast, Dance Journey. Today we have on the show our first guy actually.
Really?
Tau.
Awesome.
Actually you are, yeah. His name is Tau. His full name, let me see if I can say it. Taugata Fulu Paanga.
Yeah.
I think
The G, yeah, so it's Taugata
Taugata
Fulu
Fulu
Paanga.
Paanga.
You said it, I mean, that G, I know
close.
that G
close.
gets everybody, but you said it great, yeah.
But fortunately, he said I could call him Tau, so we're going to stick with that for now. So I met Tau at T. Millie. We were taking Brandi Chun's class. It was kind of a random how I ended up meeting you.
Yes.
Because, I don't know, I didn't really talk to anyone in the class that day, but Brandi at the end of class, I like how she does that.
That's the first time I've seen a teacher do that.
Ever?
Yeah, like that I've taken classes.
I think it was like the second time, but I'm like, was the first time Brandi? Was it always her?
It was Brandi.
Basically, like, instead of the teacher picking like all the people to go in like a special group at the end, Brandi was like, I want you guys to pick, so if you notice something good about someone else's dancing, like raise your hand and like point them out or whatever.
And say why. And
yeah.
say why, yeah.
And I picked you, right?
Yeah.
I'm like literally, it's like a blur now.
Because, so we had just finished my run, because we were in groups. And then, so I believe I was the last group. And so I was like, we just did it, and I was dying because she pushed us. It was really good.
Sweating a
and
lot.
So I'm on the other side of the studio with the other dancer that got picked too. But I'm trying to pay attention, but I'm trying to also like catch my breath. And then I hear, yes, you choose me. And then and I was like, oh, okay. And then she asked, well, okay, because she asked, why did you pick it?
Yeah.
Pick me. And then I remember, your feedback was like, you danced really big.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I was like, thank you. Like, because that was my first time. Brandi and I have been friends for quite some time, but that was my first time taking her class.
How do you know Brandi?
So Brandi is from Hawaii, and so she is part of my Hawaii family. That we have a group of friends that came over from Hawaii, and so that's how I met her, was through them, and then watching her journey as well. So I haven't had the opportunity to take her class, but that day, again, that was my first time finally had the opportunity to take it, and I did, and which
yeah.
This
And wait, did you grow up in Hawaii?
No, I grew up here. I was born and raised here in Orange County.
Okay.
I'm Samoan, and so finding we call Polynesians. Polynesians are basically Hawaiians and Samoans, and so in South Pacific.
Okay.
So we're just under the umbrella of Polynesians, and so in the industry, it's really rare to find us. We're starting to come up, and so that's how I ended up meeting them, is because they've come to continue their dance careers, and then so we're all just kind of started fighting each other, and now we're just like get together and just
that's really cool,
supporting each other.
Yeah, I love that. So so basically we had that little, it wasn't really an interaction, it was like we were across the room. But then something that I've been doing lately is whenever my teachers, I look and see who they posted of anybody's stories, and I usually try to follow everybody because I want to be friends with the people in my classes and get to know people. So I just did that. So I just followed everyone. Plus I saw your comment, and because he posted a story from the dance from the class, and you said something like, and thank you to the person that encouraged me at the end, or something like that. And I was like, I think that's me. I literally had to remember. I was like, wait, didn't I pick him? Yeah. So I followed you, and then you followed me back, and then you were really nice and messaged me and was like, thank you so much for those kind words. And I was like, yeah, of course. And then you kind of started telling me your story, and it sounded cool, like your dance story. And I was like, oh, let me know if you want to be on my podcast. Like, I didn't know if you would actually say yes.
Crazy.
I made it like a joke, but really, of course, I'm not joking. But you were like, I would love to be on your podcast. So that just worked out really easily. But you don't actually live in North Hollywood or anywhere up there. So you live more south.
Yes. Here we're at in Orange County.
Yeah. And then, I found out you live down here. And then I found out you go to Offstage because I was like, oh, what studios do you usually go to? And so I've heard a lot of great things about Offstage, and I see all the posts, and I do have friends that, or at least a friend, maybe more than one friend that
well, now
lives
me.
Down here. Well, yeah, now I do. That's taking class here, and I'm like, oh, well, well, first I Google mapped it to be like, how far is it?
Like, really?
I don't want to drive like 4 hours,
No.
but I'm like, hey, it really isn't that bad. I literally drive all over the city anyways. I might as well just like try it out. So like, I really wanted to come here and try it. So I was like, let's pick a class at Offstage. And at first I was like, tell me a class you want to pick. Then I went and found a class I wanted. I was like, actually, maybe I'll pick a class because I get intimidated because like, especially with like hip hop and stuff, like I don't train as much in that style.
Yeah.
Even jazz funk, like, or Brandy's style, I don't train as much. I do more like ballet, contemporary, lyrical jazz, but I like that stuff too. So I just keep wanting to learn house, and I've only taken like 1 or 2 classes ever. But I was like, oh, they have a beginner house that would fit in my schedule. I wonder if he wants to take that.
Which is crazy because I smiled when you sent the screenshot of the class, and so house music. I grew up on house music.
Oh, really?
I come from the era out here. Just from back in the day, and so now that generation now. House is like now it's a style of dance. And so I've actually taken this teacher before, but she was actually teaching with someone else. That's the last time I took it. It was like last year, earlier last year.
And what's her name is? I have it written up here.
Please, like,
all of these names. I have a problem every time on my podcast, though. I can't pronounce teachers' last names. I can't. I'm like, my friends that come on, I'm like, I don't even think I know your last name, or I don't know how to say your last name. It's Homare Yasuda, and I might be saying that wrong.
Yeah, and when I seen her, I didn't know when I pulled up her page. I was like, oh, I have taken her. So I didn't even know that was her name because she was actually just collaborating with the teacher that I was taking. They both were doing house. And so I thought that was like really cool now that she's teaching on like
regular basis.
Because the other one was like, it was a push. And so the beginning house, I was like, oh, work. That's going to be fun.
Good.
That's going to be fun. But house music is it's part of my like upbringing, and I'm happy like now like I could take classes with the new generation where they incorporate it into
they're doing
dance.
It's so fun. I just love all the footwork. It's hard on my feet, I'll be real, but it's really fun. I love how it looks. I want to be able to do it. So that's a good transition because you said you grew up on house. So like so let's hear about your dance journey. So how did you start in dance when you were, I think you started when you were young probably. So how did that happen?
So we actually, our family, in my culture, we started dancing Polynesian dancing. So Polynesian dancing is like if you ever been to like luau or seen a luau. So we would do all the islands. So we have like all the islands have your Hawaiian style dancing and Samoan dancing and New Zealand dancing. And so we actually started, that's my introduction into dance. My mom actually, danced in a group like prior, like growing up. Dance. It was like a family group. And so they get booked, they dance at restaurants. Luau's, they get booked for things, especially now, with Moana going on too. So like, it's stuff like that, like back in the day. And so that's how my introduction came into dance. Like it was just our culture. And then, but then it wasn't until elementary, and then my aunt, my mom's younger sister, she took me under her wing. We had like we have this amazing connection, and she had this girl dance group. Her and her friends that did they did break dancing and like hip hop back in the like 90s and 80s, and that's where I was like, what is this? Because we grew up obviously in our culture, but this was like, what is this? I love the big, that's when you said like he dances big. That's the era that I learned how to dance, because in the 80s and 90s, especially in the 90s, the dance moves were so big. And that's what I grew up on, and watching them dance, and the breaking and the popping, and so that's where I was like, oh, I want to know that. I want to learn that. And then
So your
also,
aunt was part of a group that did that.
yeah, they had it was a group of her and her cousins, and then the guys' cousins would be like the break dancers, and so. You know, when I was little and they would go to parties, and I mean, I shouldn't have gone with them, but I was like the little kid I was like, everyone thought I was her son because I was always with her. But that's what I was exposed to of dance. Like it was just the expression and like the coolness. I felt like, oh, they're so cool, you know? And so I was like, okay, that's something I want to do. And then I want to say around 7, 8. So I was already like naturally like, just dancing like back in the day there's dance craze now, right? But so back in the 90s there were also dance crazes, and they're just like an elevated version of those dance
Yeah.
moves in the back back in the day. But so there was a company party that my dad had, and it was at Raging Waters, which is the water park
Okay.
out here,
Yeah.
San Dimas. So it's crowded, and the local radio station was there, and they were throwing like a dance competition. And so, you know, they're picking people up on the stage. And so my family was like, I'm like, hey, you know, they're like lifting me up. They're like, he's going to dance. And so I was like, wow. I was like, okay. I mean, it was so packed. And so I'm on stage and I'm like looking at these older people. I mean, like, I'm watching them go, and I'm just like, I'm just 8. Like, what am I going to do? But so I go up and it's my turn. And I do this dance. The craze is called the Humpty Dump dance.
Yeah.
And it goes, Humpty Dump. That's all. And then they were like, oh my gosh, he's like 8 years old and he's doing the Humpty Dump. The crowd and the energy and like them just encouraging me on, and then everybody else was doing it, and like they were just like getting so hyped. I was like, oh, this is how that feels.
Yeah.
Like performing.
Yeah.
Like I performed obviously with family Polynesian dancing, but like that was like where I knew I want to perform. Yeah. I want to continue on.
Yeah.
And so that was like a very like point where I was like, okay, that's what can I do? You know, to do that, because that was amazing. 8 years old, you know, like I was like, wow, like how free and like how like fearless we are at that age. Because I was like, well, you guys just threw me up there, and I was like, okay.
Well, maybe everybody's not that fearless. Well, I mean, because 8 isn't that young. Yeah. I don't know that every 8-year-old would have just totally busted out and move up there.
I just remember, like, I don't think my family gave me an option. They were literally tossing me up on the stage, from what I remember, and I ended up winning. And
that's so cool.
They were like, well, because I was young, they're like, we'll send you like this awesome remote control car. I was like, yeah. Like, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah,
wow. So then what happened after that? Did you start taking classes, or what did you do?
Well, back in the day, that's interesting, like, because back in the day there weren't as studios as accessible to me, and also in our culture and me growing up, like school and sports was more like important, and so we're a very athletic family, and I love sports too, but I love dancing. So anything I had to like learn myself. So I had my cousins the VHS tapes back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I had them record music videos, because you know music videos back in the day were amazing. And what I would do is, so they had Janet Jackson on there. The one that I would learn, I shouldn't. Thinking about it now, it's kind of funny, and I shouldn't have been watching that music video. But it was Janet Jackson, if I only knew, and the house, you know, that song is.
Yeah.
But I wanted to learn the dance moves.
Yeah.
So I had that on there, and so that's how I was really like just kind of self-taught and just mimicking the dance moves from those music videos.
Wow.
So that's how
that's so cool.
Yeah, that's how I would start learning, and then and I would just watch music videos and just kind of pick up on it. And so that's really how it was, because my family was like, no, school, like dance was always something, you know, you do on yourself.
I love that, like, they wouldn't at least be like, well, dance is sort of like a sport.
Right. Exactly. Because now we look at it then, but back in the day, they're just like, oh, that's just something he loves to do. And that's it.
Yeah.
And so, but then when I got to high school, I actually joined a professional Polynesian group because
Okay.
growing up it was a family thing,
Yeah.
family group with cousins and stuff. But this group actually like they compete. So they're mainly Tahitian dancing.
Okay.
So Tahitian dancing, if you don't know, it's like the ones with the grass skirt and they shake really fast.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. Which
Yeah.
hopefully like in the future I could refer you to someone so you could kind of just get the basics of it, because I feel like that would be fun. That would really help with like with your hips and but so they did all the islands, but they were Tahitian, so they will compete but also get booked to do shows and stuff like that. So this will be my first experience actually like becoming a professional Polynesian dancing and like getting paid for it.
Yeah.
And so was my I want to say junior high.
That's so cool that you had the opportunity to do the exact dancing that was from your culture.
Yes.
And actually get paid. It wasn't just like a club or something.
No, yeah.
That's so cool.
Practiced weekly, so I'm excited because I was like, oh cool, I'm dancing. It's not hip hop, but it is our culture, and we're like, and to me, I looked at it as another practice, like sport.
Yeah.
Because I was also doing sports too, but when I got to high school, my family was like, okay, well, sports are, because I wanted to play everything, football and volleyball. And they're just like, okay, that's great. And so dance, they're like, taking you to practice for Polynesian dancing. So then that only lasted until I got to high school. And so then I stopped that.
Okay.
And then just went through high school.
You did that in middle school?
Yeah, middle school.
Oh, I thought you did that in high school.
Yeah,
so you did that when you were like kind of preteen.
Yes, preteen.
And then you didn't do anything.
Well, then we would do it here and there because the group that I danced for, we all went to high school together.
Okay.
So they will have international days and stuff like that. So we would I wasn't dancing as much as like being booked and stuff, but we'll do stuff, get together and do stuff for the school or performances like that.
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while.
But not like regular rehearsing.
Not regular anymore, because it was taking time away from my sports in school.
Okay, got you. Okay.
And so, and then even during that time in high school, I was even just making up routines with my like friends and stuff. So I would just pull out. I'm a big Aaliyah fan.
Okay.
Actually, like seeing her style growing up, I was like, I'm gonna be. That's when I was like, I actually want to be in a music video, and I want to dance for Aaliyah.
Wow.
Because her style just resonated with me. Just everything. Her Missy, Tim, like that whole era. Like I was like, oh, I want to be. That's why I was like, I want to be a backup dancer for her. And then unfortunately, she ends up passing. When I was a junior, like going into my senior year. Yeah, I know. I graduated in 2002, so she passed away in 2001. And it was so sweet of the neighborhood kid, like friends in the neighborhood. I didn't know, but they all came to my door to like knock and then tell me like what had happened. And I was like, wait, what? They're like, turn on the TV. Wow. And that's where I was like, I'm supposed to be her backup dancer. Like, yeah.
That's crazy.
Right? And so, yeah, that's how like, so the journey of like, even that, like I didn't know of any dance studios that I could go to. My parents weren't really like, we're not going to take you anywhere outside of sports. Yeah, your sports or, to go take a dance class.
Right.
Or even look for a dance class.
Yeah.
Back then we didn't have phones. We didn't have phones back then. The internet was just starting. So it was like, okay, yeah, like it was just more of whatever I could pull from the music videos and my friends. I'm like, hey, I just want to have fun. Let's make up a routine to it. Yeah. And I made up routines also during high school, like for performances. And I actually quit playing football on purpose, like because in our culture, Samoan culture, it's like football is really important to our culture and our family. But I also came out as at a young age at 14.
Okay.
So I was like in that whole rebellious mode.
Okay.
And so I quit because we had this teacher that trained cheerleading, co-ed cheerleading from the South.
Okay.
Because cheerleading here at that time, it was like, oh, it's a stomp, stomp, clap, clap, and they stunts. And she actually seen one of my performances. And she came to me, she was like, you want to be a cheerleader? Like, I'm going to put a co-ed cheerleading squad. I was like, oh, what? I was like, I'm already gay. Like, what are you trying to like? And she was like, no. Like, she was like, do you ever like want to flip? And and I was like, actually, I always wanted to do gymnastics.
Wow, that'd be so cool.
And so she was showing me a videotape of college
Yeah.
competitions.
Okay.
Of what she trains.
Okay.
Because our version of cheerleading it's
Totally
obviously
different.
totally
Yeah.
different. And when she showed me like the college competition
Yeah.
and what the guys were doing and the
Wow.
flips, I was like, so I'm all, but I have to quit football. So let me figure that out.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's how that's it ties into my journey too. Like and that was just also included in that time too.
Did she teach you gymnastics stuff, or
So
did
we
you
were-
end up learning that?
So we ended up as the whole team. We were that summer. We all went to a gymnastics center, and we were like there even during the week.
Wow.
So after our even regular training, cheerleading, I was like, oh wow, it's a sport.
Yeah, I'm learning that more and more from people I'm meeting
Yes.
that did cheer. But yeah, it's so
Yeah,
crazy to me.
and it also it's taken me to so many places that football wouldn't have.
Okay.
And so I've learned so much, but I was like the training was hard, like
Wow.
because not only did we were doing our practices of like conditioning and lifting and stuff, we would also be okay. Now we got to go to gymnastics. And so
That sounds like a
Yes.
dream. I would love to have that like training every day and then go to
Yes.
gymnastics.
Yes.
Because I take gymnastics.
Oh, okay.
But just like once a week, and
Yes.
I'm just working on handstands right now. But
See, and I love and I miss it, and it's so
Yeah.
crazy because just recently what I would do I get booked for clinics, for cheerleading clinics.
Oh, okay.
And I love teaching beginning gymnastics.
Okay.
So very much the back
Nice.
bends
Yeah.
and get them into the motion, forward rolls and handstands.
Okay.
And so I mean, like I'm so happy that I got that experience.
That's so
I'm
cool.
able to now. Like I would love to like get into it again so I could start like getting my body. But again, it's like scheduling.
Yeah.
But to get the opportunities to teach like just the foundation
Yeah.
of it, I love doing that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you did all of the cheer stuff through high school.
Throughout high school, I was gonna I had opportunities for scholarships
Okay.
for Hawaii and also Long Beach.
Okay.
But because I went so hard in high school, like I was a captain in everything, school wise, like into everything, and so I felt like I was like I'm ready to party. So I
need
mean,
a
I'm
break.
not saying to this.
Overachiever needs a break.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I go, and so I was like in Parma, so I actually didn't take up those opportunities. I had to go audition to receive the scholarship, and I didn't.
You didn't.
And then when I didn't do that, Long Beach, because where we went to do gymnastics, the cheer coach there offered because I continued to do gymnastics even after for a
Okay.
while, and so he even reached out to be like, hey, there's this opportunity, you just need to come try out. And I was like, oh, that's nice. I was like, wow. And then I didn't follow through.
They really wanted you, and you were like, no.
Yeah,
I
it was
need a break.
because I understood. Yeah, like I was like
Yeah,
just where
it's a
I
lot of
was at the
work.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, I'm out of college. I was like, I felt like now looking back in hindsight, like I don't regret that I didn't go. I knew how my mindset at that time was just party.
Yeah.
So if I went to Hawaii, I would not be in class.
Yeah.
I would be on the beach.
Yeah.
Probably
totally.
getting into trouble.
And then you'd be wasting a
And
lot
then
of
they're gonna be
money.
sending me back with my scholarship saying we revoked your scholarship because
Yeah.
you're not in class
Yeah.
and you're barely here in practice.
Yeah.
So like
So you didn't go to college during that
I did
time?
no, I did
Okay.
I did like a little college for graphic design
Okay.
because I was like it was coming up and
Okay.
but that's it. And then literally probably before 21 I stumbled into corporate America.
Oh, okay. How did that happen?
So I was dating a guy at the time, and I was actually working at Kinko's.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone that
Yeah.
don't remember Kinko's.
I remember Kinko's.
Back in the day,
I'm like, does that
printing.
not exist? It's
so
called
now it's FedEx. Yes, and I was
Yeah.
part of that whole merge too. It's so
Oh,
interesting.
interesting.
So it was Kinko's, and it was FedEx Kinko's, and now I think it's just like FedEx Office.
That's interesting. I haven't thought about this in a while. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Kinko's doesn't exist anymore.
No,
Okay.
yeah, they got bought out by FedEx, and so I was going to school for graphic design and also working at Kinko. So I was like, oh, that's a perfect, I was able to, even everyone there had their graphic design degree. So I was also learning from them too.
Okay.
Who I worked with. But then I was like, everything was changing with the merge. And so I was like, okay, I need to figure something out. I was teaching hip hop, like for this company called Young Champions of America, which is kind of crazy because I'll probably bring it up later because now I'm like working with them now.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But so I was like, okay, cool. I still want to teach dance and hip hop. It was an opportunity given to me. My best friend teaches cheer on the cheer part.
Okay.
So she was like, hey, they have a hip hop section too. Come teach. And I was like, oh, awesome. So it was like literally kids from elementary all the way to high school. And so they were like, I was like, cool. But then it wasn't paying that much. Like you were getting maybe $3 a kid.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, but I was like, okay, I want to teach, but I need to make money.
Yeah.
And back then, even in the dance industry, back in the late 90s, early 2000, it was very much like, you are going auditioning, and if you're not booked, you're not making any money.
Yeah.
So a lot of the dancers that I know in LA were like literally like couch surfing or living in their cars.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna love dance doing that. Like
the whole
like
lifestyle.
That whole
you
lifestyle.
Have to accept. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, but for my friends or the dancers that I know that were like they're in it and that's what I'm like more power. Like I love that, but I felt like I probably won't love dance after that.
You're like love that for you. I want to have a place to live.
Yeah, I need to be stable. Yeah, I have to get financially stable. So the boyfriend I had at the time worked for this healthcare company.
Okay.
And I know anything about healthcare, but an opportunity came up and I went to audition. I went to go pop lock and drop it
like,
at the interview. Yeah.
You're like, here for my audition.
They're like this is healthcare. This is an office job. I know. This is what I have. This is my resume.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
That is funny.
Okay, so you went to your interview. Okay.
And it's so crazy because I had my hair was super long and I just got it freshly cornrowed.
Okay. Nice.
I'm laughing. Oh my gosh. I swear.
And you were like 21 or something?
I wasn't even 21 yet.
Oh, okay.
I was in my 20s.
Okay.
Like just turned 20.
Okay.
And it's so funny because my family was like, cut your hair. And I was like, no, I just got it braided. I just paid like, and they're just like, they were just getting on me because they're just like, you're cornrowed and I was like, look, if I don't get this job, and I was like, then I'll cut my hair. But I'm not taking my hair out. Like I was like, no, I'm gonna be me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be me in a suit, but I'm not cutting my hair or taking my cornrows out.
Okay.
I go to the interview. I mean, all I have is literally Kinko's on my on my resume, on my audition resume, and I don't know. They took a chance on me.
Wow.
And
they just liked you in the interview, like your personality.
Yeah, they I know that I had no experience compared to everyone else that they had interviewed. And so when I left, I wasn't nervous going into it, but then when I left and I was heading home and I was like, I know we were vibing. That's how I only knew how to, that was my first interview.
Yeah.
Well, not first job, corporate interview.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I know we were vibing, but who knows? I don't know. I was feeling really weird after it's because it's something I never experienced before. And literally by the end of the day, they called me.
Wow.
And said they want to offer. Yeah.
Wow.
The end of the day, I was expecting them to wait for a week because they were like, oh, we still have a few people to interview. They called me that day, and I was so happy to tell my family because I was like, I'm not cutting my or taking it out, and so that's how I got into corporate America.
Wow.
And then so I was able to now make money. I was making at 20, not even 21. Like I have an office job.
Wow.
and so I'm able to have financially, I'm stable for a 20-year-old, and then I can still teach dance.
Yeah.
And so that's how I was like going
cool.
on probably until it went for a couple years. And so the class that I was teaching is in Fountain Valley. It's a city out here in Orange County. And I started off with like maybe 20 kids. So there's three classes, and it's normally like the elementary, and then like maybe elementary and junior high, and then the older classes, depending on their how experienced they are or how quick they pick up, is the older class. I had like 20 students, like all together from three. So starting from there, it started to grow a little bit more, and I was like starting to like feel like, this teaching thing is so like it's more rewarding, because a lot of these kids are like never experienced dance. It's like their first introduction into it, and they don't even know if they want to do it.
Are they younger?
There's so much. They're younger, but just overall, like even the high school students, like they may do freestyle. They may freestyle, but they literally like have not been in a dance class, or like or they just like to dance, and so they were like beginner, and I felt like, oh my gosh, like this is where like I was more fulfilled like with that, because like. And then watching them. So I did it for a few years. I want to say it was 2021, 22, 23-ish. My job was requesting a lot of my time. And I know. Corporate America. Because I also was like really excelling in that as well.
Yeah.
And so, and it's funny because my year review, we were talking, my boss that hired me, she was like, we did take a chance on you when we first interviewed. She was like, they're like, we love his energy. It's just, I know he doesn't have any experience. She was like, we were just hoping you could have like rub two nickels together. She was like, you actually surpassed our expectations.
Wow.
And she was like, I'm happy we took a chance on you. And I was like, I'm loving it. Like it just was easy for me to get, and I'm like excited. But then they were also more demanding of my time.
Yeah.
And obviously that's where all the money is.
Yeah.
And so then I had to stop teaching. So by the time that happened, the students I had went from like 20-ish kids, I had almost 100 kids.
Wow.
And that was so hard to walk away from.
Yeah.
Because I watched a lot of even their demeanor and their self-esteem. Just you watch them and I feel like that's why I love teaching them, because you just watch them grow and be more outgoing, and then they make friends, and they're just growing as a dancer. And I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to continue it or they're going to do it, but like just to be a part of that and and give them that opportunity is like, and so it was really hard to leave them. But I was like, okay, I'm going to come back. So that's what happened, why I stopped, because corporate America.
So how old were you around when that happened?
20, I want to say 22, 23.
Okay.
So
it's maybe about like 4 years or something of you in that job.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, and just growing. And this program is amazing. It's I guess you would call it a like after school, like a recreational after school program. And so what they would do is like there's quarters, and so we would teach a routine to them, and then at the end of that quarter we would combine with all the teachers there's teachers from Southern California all the way up to North California.
Okay.
And one day they'll come meet here, and then we'll all just do a competition, and they could showcase but also compete.
Yeah.
And showcase what I've taught them. And so I was like, this is an amazing program.
And you said it's called Champion?
It's Young Champions of America.
Young Champions of America. I feel like I've heard of that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm also, it's going to come back later too, because just the opportunity that just happened actually within this last week.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So cool.
So that's what happened. I ended up, so then I was like working all the time.
Yeah.
I was young. And I was like, even on the weekends.
Yeah.
It was very much like, I was very much that guy that was like, I worked really hard, but I played harder too. And so I would be strolling in and like coming from the club, As long as I made it to work.
I am always impressed with people that do kind of live that lifestyle and still are amazing at work.
At work.
Because I've never really been in that lifestyle. And like, but I've seen people like you. And I'm like, that's talent. I don't know.
Oh, now? No, I can't.
Okay.
But in the 20s, that I
guess
was
that's true. I guess when I was that age, I wasn't necessarily partying, but it was crazy how much like caffeine and how many nights I could stay up all night and then do like a school project on the last night before it's due for 8 hours and then just turn it in and get an A.
It would be like I did
have a little bit of that energy, which I definitely don't anymore.
I feel like it's the same. Exactly. It's the same thing. Yeah. It was very much that because I was like, no one's going to mess with my money, only me. And so I'm for sure going to make sure I go in there and work. But then I also was like in there on weekend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like
so
in
they
the
didn't
office.
question your...
No, I mean, there was times in that I should have been fired.
Okay.
That it was like I was walking the line, but but yes, they understood that one my age, but they also understood like, oh, you're a very hard worker and you're just going through this phase that everyone goes through, you know. But you show up. When you show up, you show up. Yeah. But
so how long did you have that job?
So I'm actually I worked for that. I'm actually still in the industry.
Okay.
In that company, so it's going on 18 years.
Still with the same company?
Not with the same company. At that time I left them at around 2010. So I was with them for like five-ish years, and they had same thing. They had got bought out by another health plan.
Okay.
So it was one of those same thing. I was like, oh, here goes like Kinko's and FedEx all over again.
Yeah.
And so I actually was at the end of that whole transition. So they laid me off.
Okay.
And this was around.
I know that's what my old company had a bunch of that. Merges, layoffs, all that stuff.
Yeah. We see it coming. Like I see how that all acts out. And so, but even with that, like I was on the end of that whole transition. They actually were trying to keep me. I was like, what? You guys are like fighting for me. So then it was really nice. Like, and so then I got laid off. And so I was off, and then I ended up meeting at that time who's now my ex-husband. And so that also contributed like why I also just stayed like life. And at the time I was like, oh, dancing was still popping up here and there, like for like family events.
Okay.
Or I had this opportunity. So quinceañeras, so they have their like traditional quinceañeras, but then they also have like a special dance like a hip hop. Normally it's like hip hop. I was also like they were requesting for me to like choreograph like the hip hop.
Wow.
Like their hip hop dance.
People are always just like seeking you out.
Yeah, that was like
a lot of favor.
Yeah, like and they're like. So then I did a few of those, and I thought that was really funny. And the last one I did was so interesting because they had they had hired a choreographer for the traditional part, and then I did the hip hop.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what happened, but something happened with the choreographer for that part of the traditional. They ended up firing him, but they only had like barely a half of a routine of that, and they're like, we'll pay you more, but can you? And I was like, okay. I said, we can make something happen. I was like, let me see what you have. And then I was just like, going, then we had YouTube. So, and then I was kind of like watching like different like quinceañeras of like how they put the waltz and how they, and then, so then I was like, all right, let's do this.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
so you learned all of that very quickly.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, and then we saw what they had together. I was like, cool, we'll just add on to that. So that was an interesting experience. It was fun, but that was the last quinceañera that I did. So I did both that and the hip hop dance, and it was fun. But so it was popping up here and there during
while
that time.
you were, and you had started working like in other companies in that industry.
So I got laid off in 2010, and then I was like, I'm gonna go to. So there's an opportunity in Vegas that happened for work, and that was actually my first time like leaving I want to say I was kicked out in high school, but I was living with family, and so but this was actually like my officially like being out on my own.
Okay.
So and so that was like around 25-ish. Yeah, 20, and I was with my ex-husband at the time, and so we were like, I was like, well, there's opportunity here in Vegas. Also, it's an opportunity for us to like finally, and myself, to be on my own and be a grown person. And so that's where we ended up in Vegas. But we only ended up in Vegas for like during the summer, that whole summer. The job opportunity was amazing, but it was more commission based.
Oh, okay.
I was getting like, I was in the process of getting licensed to sell life and health insurance.
Okay.
So totally different from what I was doing, but also still the same. But I just am getting, I'm working off of commission.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not a salesperson like that.
In that way,
and I'm very knowledgeable about
I relate
it.
to that.
Yes.
I'm not into that either.
Nah, I'm very knowledgeable of it, and I would love to talk to people that want it.
Yeah.
Yes, send me them. I'll sit here and we'll go over it.
Explain it.
But to try to get a foot in and
someone
trying
who
to
doesn't want it.
Yeah, and then I'm like, I'm not gonna. And so it's so funny. The day I got licensed finally in Nevada was the same day I was like, I'm gonna go back to California. Because I was like, Vegas for me was just it was to show me that I can make it on my own. Now we were like, okay, let's come back to LA though, and I was like, I don't know about LA. Like I was kind of like up against the wall about moving back to LA.
Okay.
And so, but I was like, okay, let's do it. We ended up finding everything kind of like fell into place. So that's how I knew. I was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to be in LA. So we lived in Koreatown.
Okay.
And literally the week after, like literally that same week we moved, because I didn't have I was still living off of my unemployment from being laid off. And then I found a job in downtown literally that same week.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, and so for another healthcare plan. So, and then, so now I'm like, okay, I'm in LA. So
you're in Koreatown, you got the job within a week. Crazy. And it was not a commission based.
No, it was, I was doing similar to what I was doing with the previous company in the claims department. I love math.
I like math too.
Yeah, and so it's so crazy because like I was doing the credits, for math, like, but I did not know that, oh my gosh, I'm going to use math to actually like, this is how I'm in the healthcare using all the math.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. So I basically am like it's a lot of formulas, a lot of currency.
Okay.
So that's where I'm like, oh yeah, and this keeps me on my toes. It keeps me, which is always, everyone's always surprised. Like that's my job. And so I'm like, okay, I'm in LA. I'm married at that time. And so I was like, okay, well, now I'm in LA. Let me see about checking out classes, now that I'm like in it.
And this was like around what year?
2011, from 2010 to 2011 through to 2013, 14.
Okay.
So, but there's a lot going on in our marriage.
Okay.
And so finding time to like try to find classes in LA, or and then also was working a lot too.
And I was gonna say, did this job have a little more work-life balance, or
no? It was I was easy. Yeah, I was easy. It was I was working a lot.
Okay.
And then I was also working remotely too. So even though I lived in Koreatown, I only had to be in the office like maybe twice.
Okay.
But then I caught myself after like reflecting back during that time that working remotely, I was like in the house all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, I didn't even take a break. Or
yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, like I need to go for a walk.
Yeah.
Like why am I, because work is there.
Yeah.
And so that was my like experience with remotely, because I work remotely now, but I was like, okay, I can't do this. Like this is too much. And so, or like I don't have a life.
Yeah.
I'm like literally just getting up and like walking over and I'm working. And,
yeah.
And then during that time, like we were in the process of getting divorced.
Okay.
So here I go, now entering my 30s in 2013. Yeah. Freshly divorced, and I'm like happy because then now I can now get back into
Okay.
the things I love,
Yeah.
you know? So then that's when I found IDA at the time. I don't know.
I just heard of that from someone, but I hadn't heard
yeah,
of it
because
before.
because
exist
they're
anymore.
not anymore.
Yeah.
And they used to be on Hollywood Boulevard, look at Hollywood Boulevard at Highland, I believe.
Okay.
Because I would take the train there, and so that's when I was like, okay, now I could like start taking little classes here there. So then I started taking like hip hop classes there, and I would take it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the kids at that time, I was like taking classes. I was like, I'm dancing next to these kids, and a lot of them are like grown now, and they're like amazing. They're like booked and crazy. So it's so crazy that I danced with them next to them when they're kids in IDA. But I just remember saying like, oh my gosh, they're like eating this choreo up, and then, so it was intimidating. And like I was like, what am I doing? Because I haven't I haven't taught hip hop since my early 20s, and then like again, and everything that I did, the dances I did, throughout those years, I was just more of like, I was still creating, but not like in that level.
You weren't like training in a bunch of classes,
exactly.
And this was when you were how old?
Going back to 30. Yeah,
30. Okay.
I was getting into my 30s.
Okay.
Because I was like, oh, I no longer have this relationship, this marriage that's holding me back.
Yeah.
And so, that's why I was like, I'm going to start, like, I jumped out of an airplane, and I was like, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I love skydiving.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm afraid of heights.
Yeah.
Not for me.
I love the flying.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so, and I was like, so I started taking classes here and there, and started befriending a few like dance teachers.
Okay.
I had like the maybe 3 or 4 where I was like, oh, like, and so they were all hip hop based. So I was like, okay.
Wait, 3 or 4 that you were what?
3 or 4 teachers that I liked.
Oh, you liked a lot.
That I would go to when I knew they were teaching. Yeah. And so it wasn't consistent. But it was like I was just getting back, like getting my body to move. But then also I was like also intimidated about going, because also like I'm not gonna dance next to a 10-year-old that's like eating it up. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was crazy. But yes, so that's me getting back into it. And then I decided to move back to Orange County.
Okay.
After I was like, okay, I think I've been in LA for like 6 years. I'm surprised I even lasted that long.
Okay.
I'm really proud of myself, actually. And then the dance group, Polynesian dance group, that I used to dance for when I was a teenager. My little cousins all danced for them, because it's a family based group, and they're like really good, and they're really big.
Okay.
And also like just they're in the Polynesian dance community, they're like very they're just the part of the group to be a part of, and like they win, and they're just very authentic. And so they were like, I started to run into all the ones I used to dance for when I was little. They're still dancing with them, but they're just like, hey, we're going to be going to Tahiti next year. You should probably come back and dance. And I was like, really? You guys are? And I was like, how funny, because I'm like back in Orange County. I'm divorced. I have all this time. And so that's how I got back into Polynesian dancing. So 2014. Was 2014 I got in, and then 2015. So that was my incentive. I'm like, I'm gonna go dance in Tahiti. And so then that's when I started getting back into it and started training. And then we were doing again festivals. We would do graduations, and so that was just, it was fun. It was so good to be back. I mean, and then also the opportunities. So I'm happy I came back, because then I was able to go to Tahiti and even like dance out there. Like that experience was just like, oh my gosh, this is where I'm supposed to. Like,
and you were still doing that around your job. You
were still working, I was able to. Yes. That's so crazy that you said that, because so the company I was at that time, I was working remotely, right? But then they shifted and to come back. But that's when I just moved back to Orange County. So now I'm finding myself commuting.
Oh shoot. Yeah.
And so I did that but the incentive to come back in the office from originally was like everyone that was working from home because they had to restructure. They hired other people. They're like, just come back in the office. It'll be like 3 months, so you could get acquainted like with the new managers or the whole structure of it, and then you could go back to, and that's what I thought, or that's what it was told to me. But then here you go, a year later, I'm like, I thought we're like, now I'm like, it's literally taking me 2 hours just to get to work.
Yeah.
And then I'm there already for like 10 hours.
Yeah.
So 10, sometimes
Oh my
11.
gosh.
And then I'm like on the freeway again for 2. So literally 4 hours in my day.
Wow.
But yet I'm still like making it to practice. But then it just was like, I was like, what am I going to do? So when I was in Tahiti, I have never asked for like 2 weeks vacation at that time, how long I've ever worked for any company.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, this opportunity came up. So they're like, all right, 2 weeks. We're like, go have fun and enjoy it. The last day I was in Tahiti, I was in the ocean and I was just like, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I'm not going to lie, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Not happy because I'm like, I'm on the freeway and then I'm at work. Mm-hmm. And then when I get home, like I don't have energy. I'm barely having energy to go to practice. And so he came to me. I was like, so I literally came back and I gave everybody all the the stuff that I got for them from Tahiti, and I turned in my resignation letter. And then it was a 3-month one, and I feel like, and then so I was like, okay, yeah, you have 3 months to find someone to replace, because what I did.
That was nice of you.
Yeah, no,
3 months.
seriously, because they are honestly like. They are amazing. Like I grew so much, and so it was just when they restructured it, it just wasn't serving me anymore. And normally now looking back, I started to see a pattern like where I'm on, like, if I start hitting the 5-year mark and I feel like is there somewhere else I could go in the company, like I could contribute more, but also like where I could elevate myself. If I start feeling like, where is that at? And then, so it was like that mark. Yeah. So I was like, no, so I was like, okay. So yeah, I wanted to give them 3 months. I also am friends with the CEO too. So that's why I was kind of like, I didn't know. I just wanted to make sure I didn't burn the bridge, because who knows if I may have to come back. But so I gave my 3, and my boss was like, "Oh my gosh, we let you have 2 weeks." I'm like, "Oh, you let me have 2 weeks," and then let me have 2 weeks, and they're like, "You come back with the resignation." I was like, "I'm giving you 3 months, like find somebody." And then when it came to 3 months, I was noticing that they weren't, like, nobody was filling a spot, so I actually extended it. But also I extended it for my purpose, because I was like, look, if I'm gonna take off, because my plan is to travel and dance. Yeah. When I leave, but I wanted it to pay off certain things. So all I had to worry about was like a phone bill and so I was like, okay, I'm going to extend it, and they were like, oh yay, but only because I want to take care of these things before I'm like, peace out. Yeah. During that time, they gave me like 3 raises, because they thought that
to try to keep you.
Yes. And I was like, it's not even
about... You have so much favor on your life. No. I'm like, that's amazing.
And so it was crazy, because I was like, I just got my monthly, like, what is this? I mean, the director came to me and was like, hey, like, here, we were running a report or something and saw that there was some discrepancy in what we were paying you. And I'm all, really? I was like, because I just got my raise just a month ago or whatever. And so when I seen it, and I had to stop and really, like, I'm grateful. But then I'm like, this is not going to keep me. Like, I was like talking to myself. Yeah. I'm starting to, like, this is just almost as a test. Yeah. Really. And so I was like, no, I'm still leaving. Thank you. I mean, I'm honored and flattered, but this is 2016. March 2016 was my last. It was the last month I was there, and then took off. And then from there, I just was dancing with the Polynesian group. We were competing. I was competing in Tahitian competitions. Wow. Traveling, just personally traveling. I was in Australia for a couple weeks, and then went over to New Zealand for a couple weeks. That's why I resonate with your story.
Yeah.
When you told me where you're at
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yep.
Which, yeah. I don't know.
Most of us know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I quit my corporate job that I have for 8 years,
Yes.
and I'm dancing and
Uh,
starting podcasts and things like
and I'm like,
that.
yes, and I'm so happy that I'm part of this journey, and you're a part of my journey as well.
Yeah.
And it's not a coincidence that your podcast is called Dance Journey.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I totally resonated with you doing that, and it's like I admire that so I did a whole year of that,
Yeah.
and then when the year, like a little over a year, started happening, and I was like, ooh, okay, the money. I was back.
How to think about money.
Yeah. I was like, here we go. I was like, couldn't find a sugar daddy, but or sugar mama. I don't discriminate. But I was like, okay, now I need to. Now coming back from that, I was like, okay, I need to go into this because I love the industry. I love the healthcare industry. I mean, it's been good to me, and I've been able to have a stable life. But I need to change, like that work-life balance.
Yeah.
And so that's how I came back into it, and it was interesting how that worked out because I went into a company that I knew that I was gonna I did get paid like half of what I was making from leaving the prior company. But I was like, so what? Like I was like, because now I'm able to still dance.
Because it did have a better work-life balance.
I did have a better work-life
balance. Paid
balance.
less as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just paid less.
Yeah.
But I knew, I was like, but this is just a stepping stone for me, that to get to practice that and also still be able to do where I could still do what I love.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was like, okay, I didn't mind, I was like, it's good because I'm just gonna go from here, but it's also teaching me how to balance my life.
Yeah.
And so that's how I came into it now.
That's how you got back into
that's how I got back into
Which was
dance.
how many years ago?
So this was back in 2016.
Okay.
Well, 2016 is when I was still dancing, and I took the year off from work, from corporate America.
Okay.
But I was still dancing, and then I was still dancing with the dance group. And then so I was with that company all the way up until the pandemic, so 2020, because then we all know what happened. Like so now the dance studio, and that's when also. So I want to say 2019. I was like, okay, like in Polynesian, we're doing great. I've been happy with what I've accomplished, even just coming back from 2014 with the Polynesian style dance. Then I was like, I need to get back into hip hop. Because I guess the last time was taking class was at IDA when I was living in LA. So I was like, okay. And so then I found Snow Globe, and I was like, okay. I was like, I'm gonna go. And so that's when I started to take dance class again for hip hop. And I was like, this feels good. Yet still intimidating because again, I'm dancing next to people that are half our age, and they're like eating it, obviously. But but I'm like, okay, I'm loving how it's making me feel. Yes, I'm moving a little bit differently, but I'm all okay. Like I don't know where this is taking me, but I just need to move back in this style.
Yeah.
And so that was 2018, late 2018 into 2019. So I was like taking classes, like I want to say anytime I had, like if it was middle of the week or maybe once in the middle of the week in the evening, but on the weekends I was like there at Offstage, and then I would do Millennium OC.
Okay.
So I was kind of going back and forth
I know, I forgot they have a Millennium here.
I know.
Yeah.
I did too, and I live here. I mean, but then also like I connected with a lot, also dancers and also teachers. Like I was able to vibe, and like I was like, oh, you guys are like my style,
Yeah.
And so that was like starting to get into that, and then the pandemic happened, and then I was like, wait, what am I like? I just got into it, so like trying to do the online stuff. Well, I tried a few of those, and I was like, it was not giving.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, and so I was like, discouraged. I think the whole community was, because we were like, we don't have a place to stand. So that was interesting because I was like, I just got back into it.
Yeah.
I was still doing Polynesian at that time, And then once everything happened, like opened up, slowly opened up, Snow Globe started opening up and teaching outside.
Okay.
I was like, there.
I'm there. Yep.
Ready. So, mask and all. We were, oh my gosh, it sounds so crazy. It's not that long ago, but
it feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, it feels like
I
it's a long
barely
ago.
remember what it was like to wear a mask. I'm like, that wasn't actually that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago, but it feels like a long ago. But so when they started opening it up, I was like, okay. So then I just was like, any class I was able to open to do, I mean, I was like, I'm going to take it. I took it.
Yeah.
So then I started to just do that, like, and taking the basically almost every class I could. And then during that time, I want to say, it was like towards the end of that year, 2020. Okay, don't come for me. But during the pandemic, I did travel a lot more during the pandemic because it was cheap.
Yeah.
As long as, I was like, and I love to travel, so I was like, as long as had our mask on, and so I was traveling a lot. And at that time, there was a time where I was in Seattle, and I actually was asked to be on another a podcast, and it was also talking about dance journey.
Oh.
But it was from a father from the Polynesian group I danced for. His daughter danced with me.
Oh, cool.
And he, during the pandemic, he was like, I'm going to start this. And he was like, I want you to be on it as well. And I was like, okay. And I was like, we'll do it. So I'm in Seattle. We're actually we're recording it there. And it was amazing. It was great. And then at the end, he had asked me, well, now that you're back in hip hop, it's like, because, I already know like your Polynesian journey. He was like, what do you see yourself in like 5 years with it? And I was like, oh, like, am I hip hop? And I was like, and that's where I started. I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm like already in my 30s. I just wanted to get back into hip hop because I miss it. And it really is like my first love.
Yeah.
Polynesian is my love, but like, that's where I was like, hip hop. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so I kind of stopped, and I was like, I wouldn't mind being in a music video. I'm not trying to, like, not a big artist or even in a concept video. Like, I was just kind of was doing stuff. Yeah, that would be great to be in. I don't know. I was just like, I'm just happy to be back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be really nice in the next 5 years. I'll be part of something like that, or even dance for an artist. When I got on that plane the next day, we were flying out the next day, on the plane, someone on Instagram, who's not my friend now, messaged me. And she's like, hey, I have this friend. This is an artist, independent artist, hip hop artist. She's a rapper. And here's her song. She was like, I've been watching your posts, like your dance posts. And she was like, love the way you, love the way you dance. I feel like your style, like your movement will be great with her. Like, she's getting ready to shoot her first music video. Just hope if you're interested.
Wow.
I was like, am I reading this right? I literally, just not even 24 hours ago, I was literally just
talking about it.
Just talking about and then when I clicked on the artist and heard her song, I was like, oh my gosh, she's very much a Missy Elliott vibe, like that kind of vibe. And I was like,
oh man, all of a sudden your teenage dreams are coming back
everything.
up.
I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yes. And then I was like, yes. Send me the details. And then I was like, after a while, I was like, but it's LA, sometimes you're like, you don't know, like, that really was great. Yes.
Yeah.
And so that was 2021 or 2020 going into, so I didn't hear from them for, I want to say maybe a month or so, because I was waiting. I was supposed to get reached out with the choreographer and set up the times for practice and rehearsals. And then, so I happened to be in November in New York at that time. I was like, yeah, New York opened up. So I was like, I'm going to New York. And in the middle of that trip, because I was just talking to my friend out there that I met, that I was meeting up out there, that lives out there. And he asked about it. And then we literally were riding the bikes around. It was amazing because the city was like not crazy. So it was good, fun to ride the bike. So we were literally ride a bike, and then I get the message like from the choreographer that's teaching saying, "Hey, we want to run schedules with you," and I was like, "Oh, it's real! Like it's actually happening."
Wow,
So
that's
that
so exciting.
opportunity, yeah. So that I was like crazy. So then that opened up. So yeah, so I was able to dance in her music video, and then that also opened up to dance for her like on some of her live shows.
Wow.
Yes, and so we're still friends now, and so so now like she's like, okay, cool. Like if I need dancers or whatever, like there's that opportunity.
Wow.
And I was like,
amazing.
crazy, right? And then another opportunity with another artist. Same thing. She's also a dancer. Actually, this particular artist, she's actually a dancer. She's danced for Chris Brown and she's just now getting into her singing.
Okay.
And so then a dancer that I met at Millennium, and then we just befriended, and we just kind of like also just all part of the same journey. And she was like, "Hey, this artist, she's also like, looking for male dancers." And she was like, "I feel like you guys will vibe well together, but you have to audition for it." I was like, "Well, okay, yes." First, I was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Audition," and then, but like this day you have to be here, and that I had to be somewhere out of state. So I was like, oh, and I had to message the artist. I said, I am like, this opportunity is amazing, but I already had a out of town already that I cannot like
Okay.
change or. And she was like, oh, so you're gonna be like literally out of state? I'm like, yes. Like I'm not even gonna be an hour's drive or. So she was like, you know what? She was like, we're having rehearsals again or auditions again the next week. She thought if you could connect with any of the dancers, and like pick up whatever was taught at this audition.
Whoa.
And she's all, and then come next week and then I'll see where you're at. She was like, then we can see it. And I was like,
wow.
Really? I was like, okay. So then I ended up, I went on my trip, came back, and then met up with the dancer that referred me to her. And so I could pick up whatever they had already learned from the week prior. And then went that week, and I was nervous as hell. And then I was seeing the other dancers, and they're like, obviously, like amazing. And then we just kind of like, she just kind of like started to put the routine, like put formations in. And I'm like, like, does this mean I'm dancing? Like, it was like one of those things like, does this mean I'm dancing? Because she's already like, we were doing formations and changes. And I was like, okay. And then she had like, it was myself and another girl too that also was like, that wasn't able to make it. And so she even had just us two go up and do the routine. And at the end she was like, okay. She was like, you showed you worked hard and like you actually learned what we learned last week. So then this week we just added on to it. And she was like, yeah, well, you'd love to, have you in my music video. And there goes another one.
Wow.
So I'm like sitting.
So crazy.
Yeah. I was like, what is going on right now?
Oh my
Manifestation. It's crazy. So I was like, wow, I was just coming back to dance, just to dance, because I was like, I miss hip hop and I miss, and I also was like, got into jazz funk too. I started, I befriended a dancer too that I'm like, we're friends now, and he's an amazing dancer. So then I was like, I need to move, like I need to train under you. So during that time, 2020 to 2021 and 22, I was literally taking his classes. I was going because I was like, I need to. One, his endurance is amazing. It's just crazy. So I would take, and we ended up both dancing in the music in the first music video.
Okay.
And that's how we connected. So we just started dancing for her, and then he also ended up started choreographing for some of her live shows that we would dance. So
wow.
So I was training under him because he's just same thing, jazz funk, something that I'm not used to. So a lot of that too is what I'm starting to find myself doing in. And
you're doing all of this like outside of your regular job still.
Yes.
And then what? So did you just keep doing stuff like that up until even current?
Yeah. So
okay.
So we started to. I was dancing 2021 was a year like I was dancing so much, and then I didn't even think I would even be. But then I was asked to be in two of my friends' carnival piece
Oh, nice.
for the October.
Choreographers
In the
carnival.
October version.
I've
Yeah.
never been to
Yeah.
any of that,
So
but
carnival it's something that I've followed even back in the like late 90s or early 2000s because a lot of dancers now are the ones that come to, even artists like Janet Jackson and Missy, and a lot of artists like these are just choreographers that showcase, right, up and
yeah.
coming or been. And so I never thought in a million years that I would be in carnival. So when both of them, both of my friends had asked me, they're like, I want to cast you in my piece. I was like, what is going on right now? Because I just wanted to come back to dance. I was like, I literally just said in that podcast that I was like, I don't know, be part of like a music video. Boom, been in two.
Wow.
Was into, and then like now this opportunity to do carnival, I was like, this is wild.
Wow.
Right? And
That is so crazy.
And I was like, and so I was just, 2021 was like great. It was amazing. And then it was like, okay, I need to take a little break. So we did carnival. But then during that same time, that's when my dad got sick.
Oh.
Yeah. And so even like, so he actually got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer during the pandemic, actually in the beginning.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was a lot going on. So also like working full time. I think I work remotely, so that also is convenient for me.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like I was able to do everything, but also have a good, which is why going into working remotely now is different because, I'm able to work from home, but I wasn't. And then once I'm off work, I was off dancing, so it was it had me really have a good balance.
Yeah.
And so all that was going on, and like going through that journey with him, and so so after 2021, 2022 is where it got really bad, like as far as his cancer, and so everything shifted, 2022, 23, because my energy and is to my family. I'm the oldest, and so
How many siblings do you have?
I'm the oldest of three.
Okay.
I do have older half brothers, but they're all. So yeah, I'm not only the oldest of three, but I'm also the oldest grandchild, of like the family.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so during the 2023s, we were going through a lot because we lost not only my uncle, who also was like a mentor and like a father figure to me. We had lost him, and then lost my grandfather, Fulu, who's my middle name. And then right after that was my father in 2023. And then a cut. So now I'm like, okay. So during this time, I was like, okay, we're like trying to like grieve, but also like trying to take care. And but during that time, I end up meeting my friends. Now they're my Hawaii friends, who like where Brandi is part of, and she trained. Her name is G. I told her I was gonna give her a shout out. Her and Will. It's just one of those like timing where it's like divine. Like, so I used to follow them on YouTube back in the day, because when YouTube started to come up, and I started to see other Polynesian kids dancing hip hop other than Polynesian dancing, and I found them, and they're all like, "Oh, they're from Hawaii! Oh my gosh, it was so cool to see," because I didn't grow up seeing that, like watching other Polynesian kids dancing anything other than Polynesian dancing.
Yeah.
And that's when I ran into Paris Goebel, or like I started to see them with the royal family, and I was like, wow, other Polynesians actually dance hip hop.
Wow.
I mean, they're far away, but it was like inspiring.
Yeah.
And so, which is so crazy, because then here I go. I manifested this too. G and them, the group from Hawaii that I would follow since it's been 10 years now, she ends up teaching here at Offstage. And she teaches whacking.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Which is another style that I've always loved, but I just couldn't find anyone that actually like. Oh well, for me, I wasn't exposed to it to anyone that I'm like, oh, I want to learn from, and here it goes. The universe was like, you've been wanting, you've been following them, and now here she goes. So that was my first time at Offstage.
Wow.
Was when I saw she was teaching. I didn't put two and two together that was who she was, because I didn't know any of their names. And so when I walked in, and it was a whacking class, and so that's how I met G, and Will, and then later, it wasn't until later on where it clicked, where I was like, oh my gosh, you're the group from Hawaii that I will follow. Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
And now we're friends.
Wow.
And now I train under her. So I train
Wow.
under her whacking style. And that's actually where I'm going to go later on tonight.
Oh, nice.
After class, after we leave here, or after. And so that's another style that I got into, that I'm learning and I'm like taking in. And then Will, Will is also like a really good. They all trained Sienna. Sienna is a Samoan choreographer. She choreographs for J-Lo now.
Oh, nice.
She choreographed for BTS.
Okay.
So Sienna is a product of G and Will, and so that's where I'm like, that's so
amazing.
crazy.
Like your life is
becoming
amazing with dance.
Yes.
From you being like,
coming
I kind
back,
of miss hip hop.
Yes, coming back to it.
That's crazy. So, okay, we have to.
Yeah.
We're gonna run out of time.
I know.
Your story is amazing. Tell me, like, did it just is it just like more and more of this that keeps happening? And then I also want to hear about the opportunity with the young champions.
Oh yeah,
and like how that came back up.
So even coming, so now getting back, and then the older I'm getting, I didn't realize, and then it was it was brought to my attention recently, that I was like having these self-limited thoughts, and because I'm like, I'm not picking up choreo, because after like dancing all that time in 2021, and then now that we're like moving forward with my family, and I'm like, so me coming back into like 2022, 2023, now I'm like, I'm ready, but my body was like, are you though? But then I realized, I realized like, that's what was like actually hindering my like movement, because I was having all these, I was not only like, not to be trying to get all deep, but I've also had the things that in my personal life that I had to break through, like I had to really, really break through it. And I didn't realize that I used my whole body to hold, like, suppress things down, like emotions and stuff like that. And I was given the opportunity for this program. I'm just going to say, it's called MITT. It's a transformational program. Amazing. But I was given this opportunity to go, and I was able to break through all that, and realizing, oh my gosh, I was really hindering myself. And literally recently, I'm moving so much differently. I feel so much lighter. That the dance video on my Instagram, that the dance class that I took, literally after that whole training, is Alexis class. And Alexis class has always been a stretch for me. And not that to say, but I've never been chosen. But I know she sees, because she knows who I dance under, Will and G. Yeah. So she knows who I am, but I always could feel that she was like, he's there, but he's not there. Yeah. But after I did this program, and I came into her class that day, something happened where I call it the Aunt Viv situation. If Aunt Viv is like a fresh prince, right? I was gonna say that scene, right? But she's in a ballet class. Wait, I don't. Okay, I probably haven't seen every single episode, but tell me about it. But this particular, so Aunt Viv is also like, she hasn't danced in years, so she ends up taking this ballet class. And then there's these younger girls in there that are like. How have I not seen this episode? I know. I'm gonna forward it to you. Yeah, I'll forward it to you later. Because I've seen most of it, and I can't remember that. I feel like you probably but when I send it to you, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, it's an amazing scene. It's amazing and so she So she's in this ballet class, and like, you know, she hasn't danced in years, but there's these younger girl dancers in there that are like really giving her like basically giving her a hard time.
Yeah.
Like what she's doing, what is she doing here? Well, she ends up getting chosen to go to do the dance with 3 other dancers.
Okay.
And she eats it like in front of them. Like she's like eats it, right? And then she walks past them and she snaps at them like, you know, and then she walks out of the dance class and she collapses. So she's like, I'm not gonna collapse in front of them, but she ate that routine. And that one's always like, and so I call it an admin moment. So I was in Alexa's class, I was in the back, and I'm like, oh, I feel so good. And so this younger dancer that I know, that she's only seen me in the whacking classes or in the Vogue classes, because I also do Vogue.
Okay.
And so I understood why she asked this, but she was like, oh, hey, Tao. And I was like, hey. She was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, what are you doing in Alexa's class? And I was like, I take Alexa's class when I have time. I come take it. She was like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, you have a nice class. I'll see you later. And she walks off, and I was kind of like, I don't want to call it shade, but it was giving that, you know. But she was young, like super young. But I was trying to be like, okay, she only see me in these spaces, so she doesn't know that I dance other styles. You know? So, but I ate that routine, and Alexis picked me, and it's not about being chosen. It was more about it was like she actually now see me, and she's like, she probably doesn't even know, like, I don't know what happened, but he showed up today. Yeah. And it's because I'm now showing up I'm now dancing from a place of joy, when the last few years I was really beating myself up, feeling like I don't know how long I have time to dance because I'm this and this age, and my bones in my back and my da-da-da-da. And yeah, that's how I took
so
it.
Cool. So you're like set free from that mindset.
Yes.
And it's like, it's not about being chosen, but it's like you felt the change, and to have someone else notice a change, it's just confirming. Yes. It's not like you have to get picked, but it's like, oh yeah. People actually see the thing I'm feeling inside. Like you were feeling more joy, and you're feeling the moves, and that's amazing. That's
and
so
she
cool.
came to me after. She was like, Tao, you did so good. I'm all, thank you. Yeah. The dancer that earlier that's what I was doing. She was like, you did so good. I was like, thank you, girl. Yeah. But yeah, and then after that was when I met you. In Brandi's class.
So this just happened the other day?
It just happened
crazy.
Last, like 2 weeks
ago. But
what
was, okay, we got it. I don't even know what time it is.
I don't even know what time it is. Like,
oh, wait, are we late?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well,
do you have time after the class to
yes.
talk for a few minutes? We're going to talk about the class.
Yes.
Because I think we have to go to class.
Yeah, class, and then, yeah.
Okay, we'll see you guys in a minute. Okay, I'm back with Tao. Yes. We just got done with our beginner house class, who the teacher was Homare Yasuda, which I might be saying wrong. But how did you feel?
It was great. Like, honestly, like the other house classes that I took and jumped into, I was like, okay, this is a little too. I mean, like, I muscled through them, but I didn't understand like the steps. We were just doing them. Yeah. And I was like, that doesn't feel like that, but whatever, right? But this beginner is, I was like, oh. Yeah.
I felt like this one, I understood like the concept of house better. I mean, I took another house class. It was a little more advanced. And the steps were so tricky that it was a good challenge, but it was a little harder to get into it because I was just like, oh my gosh, these moves are so confusing and crazy. Whereas I really liked, she kind of went over a lot of similar moves, but then it still got tricky because she put them all together, and because they were similar, I was like, wait, which one are we on? Like,
but I'm just saying, I'm like, you did really, like, I was like inspired, like it gave me energy to like pick it up as well, you know? So, yeah, I agree. Like, breaking down and slowing it down, I was like, oh, I understand the step. I've seen the step. I've seen them use it over and over. Yeah. But it was always just really fast. And they're like, okay, like, that's what it is. But her breaking it down and slowing it down. And then I feel like then her putting it together was kind of like, okay, now we're like leveling it up. Yeah. But like you did great, and like it like inspired me to do the same too. So.
And then she was like, "Yeah, you inspired me as well. You did great too." And then she was like, "You can put a turn in at the end if you want," but she didn't really fully explain how to do it. She just kind of showed it really quick, and I didn't know where the turn was going in this sequence. I didn't really understand it. And so she kept asking for questions, and nobody was asking questions. And those of you that know me and take class with me, I usually ask like 100 questions, but I didn't ask any questions yet. I was like, well, I haven't met my quota for questions, so I'm going to ask a question. So I was like, can you show the turn a little bit slower? And she did. And then Tau took that as meaning that we are definitely going to do the turn, which that was not. I was like, I just want to watch it and see if I decide if I want to try that turn. But Tau is like...
Yeah, when she first did it, I was like, yeah, no. And then she asked questions, and when you stepped in and said, can you show us the turn? And I was like, well, I guess that means we're doing the spin. And you're like, wait. And I'm all, you asked?
And Tao turns to me, he's like, so we're doing it? Yeah. I was like, well, I didn't say we were doing it. But then I was like, okay, guess we're going to do it. And then...
What happened? We did it.
We got it. We did it. And then we had to even dance in partners, and we danced together, and we danced with different people. And that's really hard to like do it facing somebody because you're doing opposite movements. We did it to the wall. We went out in the special group because she was like 8 people come out or something.
Yes. And I was like, we're going.
He just pulled me. So that's one way to get me to go.
Yes. I'm all, you gave me that feedback in Brandi's class. I'm all, and this is me. Let's go. We're going to go kill it. And
so that was super fun. Yeah. We did pretty good. I messed up a little, but it was in the middle and I picked it back up. So, that switching to the left foot thing was kind of tricky.
And that part is like, even though like messing up, like, we kept going. Yeah. Like, we just picked it up.
We just got back right in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when I feel like sometimes, or I've known in the past, when I'm, like, messing up, I just, like, I'll just mess up the rest of it. But the fact that, like, we missed a step, but then we just picked it up.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is, like, okay, that's just the level of, like, learning. Like, we're not learning just to do it. We're actually, like, learning and we're processing it. To be able to pick it up on the next step versus like, if we were just going in there just to do the steps, we would have just like messed it up and it's like, oh, forget it, we'll just go the next one,
Part of the learning is learning how to perform it in the midst of situations like that. And that's what I tell myself when I'm doing a dance that I didn't completely pick up and I'm annoyed about it. I'm like, okay, well, another level of learning is how to perform it, how to still have the face, even though I don't know half of it or whatever for like the really hard classes. But yeah, so that was super fun. I really enjoyed it. It was really cool to see Offstage. That's like, you kind of look like you're just at a bunch of offices. I really was confused about where to park, but I didn't get a ticket, so we're good. And Tao, it's amazing to hear your story. Thank you so much for taking time to be on my podcast. And yeah,
back anytime.
any last words to the people?
Look, regardless, like the age, I know before I was like always preachy to like when people will come and they're like, oh, we're too old, and I was just like, just dance. And it's so funny that I would say that to them, and then as I'm like was coming to this age, I'm going to be 40, which is not old, and we look amazing, and we're still moving. Just dance, because it brings you joy and love, and like, and everything will just fall into place. Like, we're not out here trying to get booked or anything. It's just something that just feeds our soul. And then like, and for me now, I'm dancing from a place of joy. Yeah. And before I was like, I don't know like how long I have to dance, and I'm like, I can't believe I was like there, but I'm able to break through that. So just keep dancing. Doesn't matter what age. And yeah, I'm like out here like eating like kids, like dancers half my age, we're keeping up with them, you know what I'm saying?
And you're getting opportunities anyways. And actually, did you share about the young champions? What's happening?
So I ended up contacting the director. So I would judge a lot of their cheerleading competitions.
Oh, okay.
But the dance portion, it's not like it was back when I was teaching in my early 20s. So, but for years, when they would call me back I would do clinics for them. That's where I would teach the beginning foundation of gymnastics, and I would judge their cheerleading competition. Their dancing just not there anymore. Like, and it made me really sad. But for years, I was just like, oh, I don't have the capacity to help them out because. But I ended up contacting the director, and I wanted to volunteer my time to go out there and mentor the teachers, the dancing teachers, because a lot of the generation now, when they come in, they want to teach for a program like that. They're not coming in thinking they're teaching kids that are like here, like at Offstage or like dancing already.
Yeah.
These are kids are literally, like I said, like just beginning into dance. They don't know if they will like dance.
Yeah.
And that could be discouraging when the teacher is like, let's do tutting and stuff. And these kids are like, what? And so I wanted to volunteer to go mentor that, because then when you mentor the teachers and have them understand.
Yeah.
And so they were like, we actually have, well, I wanted to volunteer. They're like, you're not volunteer, like we're gonna pay you. And I was like,
oh, nice.
But wait, and I was like, I just want to volunteer my time. They're like, no, we do have a position. It's a field rep, and so I'm gonna start it this summer.
Whoa, that's
and so
awesome.
it's just a handful. It's literally just a handful.
Okay.
But my vision for it is to grow it back again by mentoring the dancers and to teach them how to teach these kids.
Wow,
that kind of level,
that is so
they
cool.
can grow their class and then have them want to come back and teach.
Yeah.
That's what's been lacking, is that they get discouraged. The teachers get discouraged. And the kids get discouraged and they don't come back.
Yeah.
So my vision is within the next few years that we get it back to even better when I was back teaching. And that's my vision for that.
That's amazing. Yeah. I'm so glad I remembered to ask you again, because I was like, wait, what's happening? That's like such a cool story. I love that.
Yeah. So I get to like now, because of I went through the program I went to at MICT, like now I understand like, oh, okay, I get to mentor, to now I'm able to bless people, and I'm also being blessed. Yeah. Because they could grow, and who knows where these dancers will end up. Yeah. You know. Yeah. So yeah.
So cool. Oh my gosh, Tau, I'm so excited that I met you. I'm excited to like follow your continued dance journey. Thank you guys for watching. And yeah, I'll put Tau's Instagram on the thing if you have any questions for him or whatever. And please like and subscribe and comment and all those things. And we'll see you next time.
Tracy, bye.
So good.